Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday to everyone out there. You are listening to the Scoreboard, hosted by me, Joe Berg, and today is Thursday, December 12th. We are not live in the studio today. This one has been recorded at an earlier time. Got to give you guys the disclaimer because every now and then, including yesterday, news breaks when I record this show that I can't really talk about because I already recorded the show, got it all set, and we have to push it back. Yesterday, we had a moment like that where some news broke, and unfortunately, I had already recorded the episode and didn't have a chance to talk about it live on air with you guys. But nonetheless, we will talk about some of the things that are in the news today. Not WNBA. NBA action last night. It was Leagues Cup quarterfinal matchups, which just took place. It was the Atlanta Hawks taking down the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. And the Rockets pulled out a 1-point victory over the Golden State Warriors in Houston to move on to the semifinal round. Now, the semifinal round is coming up Saturday, December 14th. So a couple of days from now, you'll have both games on the same day. It'll be the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and the Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder. Games at 4:30 and 8:30 on Saturday. And then we'll have the in-season Cup, NBA Cup championship game on Tuesday, December 17th. I guess it matters to the players a little bit whether or not they're doing good in this tournament. You're seeing a little bit of passion from them. And I think that was the biggest question mark again this year is, do the players, are they embracing this? Are they saying, you know what, this is a chance to win something during the season? It's more than just a game. And I think you're seeing that on the court play out, especially with coaching and with thoughts about fouls and whatnot, people going crazy about those things. But nonetheless, the NBA Cup games that were last night, we'll talk about those in depth a little bit later on in the program. There was some news that broke yesterday regarding Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is going to be the new head coach of UNC Chapel Hill. Yep, you heard me correctly. Bill Belichick is going to college. Whew. I am not shocked by this news. I had a feeling he would come back to coach. I guess I'm a little shocked that it's in Chapel Hill with UNC instead of in the NFL, considering he's very close to breaking the all-time record for head coach wins all time. Bill Belichick has 302 career wins as a head coach. Don Shula, the all-time leader, has 328. So he's close. He's close. He needs about 2 seasons to get there with a decent team. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. 302 wins. Over 300 is awesome to see. Andy Reid, by the way, has 270. How much longer do we think Andy Reid is going to be a head coach in the NFL? Not sure. We'll have to see. Some other things in the news that we're going to talk about. Something just made some noise here in the studio. That was interesting. We got some news about the flag planting that was going on at Ohio State. Oh, man, this is a bad look. This is a very bad look. An Ohio lawmaker is attempting to bring a bill to Ohio that would make planting a flag in the middle of Ohio Stadium during Ohio State games a felony. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Ohio State Representative Josh Williams introduced the bill Tuesday that would classify flag planting at Ohio Stadium around Buckeyes football games a felony. Man, that's a tough look for the state of Ohio. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. Not a good look. Not a good look if you ask me. Because think about this. Like, how about you win the game? There's a start. How about if you lose, you take it and just move on. Go to the next game. Learn how to lose with dignity. No? Michigan won. They beat Ohio State at their stadium. I have no problem with them bringing out their flag and, I guess, ceremoniously, not really though, planting the flag at midfield, because really you can't plant the flag. I'm pretty sure it's turf there, but just kind of putting the end of the flag on the ground, signifying that they conquered Ohio State. I'm fine with it. I like it. I love it. Go for it. But, you lost Ohio State. You could have prevented the flag planting. And the thing that I'm going to go back to every single time on this is you had 60 minutes to fight. 60 minutes to put up a fight. And you waited until the end of the game to put up a fight? I don't feel bad for it. I'm sorry. I just don't feel bad for them. So that's some of the things that are in the news today. We'll talk about that a little bit more and what's going on. We also want to talk a little bit more about high school sports today. We're going to get into women's basketball today. Yeah, women's basketball is going on in high school. So we will make sure that we talk about what's going on with the girls' basketball teams around the way. Men's and women's basketball in high school goes on at the same time. So we spent a couple of days talking about the men's basketball. We got to get into the women's basketball as well. Show the ladies a little bit of love as they have some good teams in the area with the women's season. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the schools in the area, as we always do. Statesville, North Iredell, Lake Norman, all the way down there. Huff, Pine Lake, where I went. We're going to talk about most of those schools today and just give you an update on where they are on the season. How many wins, how many losses? Are they looking like a decent team? Any superstars out there? All that fun stuff. Then we're also going to start previewing Thursday Night Football. You got the Rams and the 49ers coming up tonight, a big NFC West matchup. And we're going to get into the NBA Cup. I promise you we're going to talk about everything from yesterday with the Warriors and the Rockets. Oh, boy. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Scoreboard. We're back after this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Scoreboard. You are listening to me, Joe Berg, come to you not live today. This is a pre-recorded episode. Everything is current. Today is Thursday. I just recorded this earlier in the day. That way, we have an episode for today. So we will be getting back to the live broadcasts. I promise they'll come back. That way I can, take your phone calls, all that fun stuff. But right now we are pre-recorded to you coming on Thursday, December 12th. When we went to the commercial break, I let you guys know we were going to talk some women's basketball in the area. Yes, high school basketball, women's style. Let's get right into it here. Why not, right? I'm going to start things off with Pine Lake Prep. That's where I went to high school. The Pine Lake women's team has had a rough start to the year. They won their first game against South Lake Christian Academy, but since then, Pine Lake has lost 4 consecutive games. And to be honest with you, they're 4 really rough games. Lake Norman Charter, they lost to them 66-23. Charlotte Country Day School, that was a really rough one, a 60-10 final score. And then a couple of days after that, they played Ambassador Christian School and lost 65-21. And then Christ the King High School, as they lost 61-27. So some rough games there for Pine Lake, but hopefully tomorrow they're able to turn it around as they take on Union Academy. Now, Pine Lake has already played a conference game. That was against Christ the King High School last week. So they're 0-1 in the conference right now, but a long way to go. There's one more conference game before the Christmas break, the holiday break, the New Year break, whatever we want to call it. And then when we return, it's all conference play. So 1-4 right now. Tomorrow they'll take on Union Academy, will Pine Lake. Next up, we have Statesville High School. The Statesville girls basketball team is off to a decent start this year as they are 3-2. They won their first two games of the year against South Iredell and Carson High School. Then they lost the next two against Lexington and Mooresville, and then a win against Garinger High School. So 3-2 for the Statesville women's team as they've put together a pretty good start to the year. When you look at comparing it to the start that they had last year, they lost quite a few games to start the year and ended 3-22. This year, things are looking a lot better, at least at the start of the season. Already got those 3 wins that they had last year and only 2 losses so far. So next game for Statesville women's basketball is going to be tomorrow versus Lake Norman High School. Moving on from Statesville High School, let's keep in the Iredell area with South Iredell. South Iredell Vikings have a little bit of a tough start to their year. They won their most recent game against Bunker Hill High School, 58-36. But before that, they've lost 4 in a row, the first 4 of the season. Statesville, North Iredell, North Lincoln, Alexander Central, teams we're all familiar with and that we talk about all the time here. There was a game against West Iredell, apparently from last week, but I do not have a score and I cannot find a final score on that game. So if anybody knows anything, reach out to us, let me know, and I'll report that score to you when I know it. But as of now, I have South Iredell at 1-4 on the year. Another team that's playing tomorrow, next game is going to be on the road at West Cabarrus. That will be the first conference game for South Iredell. Then they won't have another one until we come back from the new year. So tomorrow on the road against West Cabarrus for South Iredell High School. Next up, we have West Iredell, who, well, they have a win on the season against Wilkes Central from a couple of days ago, which is great. But before that, they hadn't won a single game. They lost 5 in a row, possibly 6 in a row. We're still looking for the report on the score between South Iredell and West Iredell. So 1-5 right now for West Iredell early in the season. And looking back to what happened last year where they went 1-23, it's a little bit of a rough start to the year here. You want to get some momentum going and do better than you did last year, and there's plenty of time to do that, but definitely a tough start to the season for the West Iredell women's basketball program. Their next game isn't going to be until next week, where they'll take on St. Stephen's High School. Like I said, that's going to be a conference game for West Iredell. Then they do not play until after the new year, and it's all conference from there. North Iredell basketball is actually off to a good start here for the women's side, just like the men's side. 4-2 to start the year. Their most recent game was a couple of days ago against East Surrey on the road. They did not win that game, unfortunately, losing 56-48, but some good wins in here, beating Bunker Hill 76-38. And also South Iredell, they beat them as well. So the North Iredell women's team is 4-2 on the year. Their next game is going to be next week against South Iredell. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we get closer to tip-off of that game. Moving down a little bit farther south, we have Lake Norman girls basketball team, and they are off to what I would say is the best start of teams within our listening area that we talk about all the time. The women's team for Lake Norman is off to a 6-0 start to the season. Some really good wins in there, dominating wins, I should say even. North Lincoln to start the year. They won 93-25. And then last week, actually, at the beginning of the week, they played West Rowan, a 90-15 victory. Whew, man, that is a blowout. And then they beat South Mecklenburg 72-17. This Lake Norman women's basketball team is really good. And no surprise, we talk about Lake Norman all the time. They are a very good program, and all of their sports always seem to be really solid in the Lake Norman area, Iredell County area. So no surprise that the women's team for Lake Norman is doing as well as they are. 6-0. Their next game is tomorrow. They'll take on Statesville High School up in Statesville. And lastly, let's talk about Mooresville High School. 2-5 on the year so far. And looking back at what Mooresville did last year, also only 3 wins on the year in its entirety. Not a massive improvement so far, but it looked like it was going to be a much better year than last year. The way they started off against Garinger High School, beating them 51-8. Yes, 51-8, a single-digit score for Garinger High School. But then they went on to lose 5 games in a row. And they were somewhat competitive. Not really any massive blowouts, although they did lose to South Mac 59-39. And then you bounce back with a win against Statesville High School. So I do think that this women's team for Mooresville is a lot better than they were last year. Let's just see how the remainder of the season goes. 2 more games this year until we get to the new year for the Mooresville High School women's team. They'll play Cox Mill High School tomorrow. That's a home game for Mooresville at 6 p.m. against Cox Mill. And then next week on the road against Hickory Ridge High School. And then obviously, just like everybody else, it's all conference games after we get back from the new year. So that is the women's basketball scene as we stand. Games coming up tomorrow, not many going on today, but that's all right. We'll bring them to you next week. Tomorrow, what we're going to do is remind you of what the regional matchups are for high school football. We may talk some men's basketball, throw it in there as well. So just a reminder to you, the football season is not over for high school. Not yet. It's getting there. It's almost over. I promise it's almost over, but we're not there just yet. So we will talk about those regional matchups. And then next Friday, state championship games, which means when we come back on Monday, 2 days before Christmas, not this Monday, or this coming Monday, the Monday after, we'll get to talk about all the state champions in North Carolina high school football. We're coming up on our next commercial break of the day, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to let you know what we'll talk about next. We'll get into the NBA Cup, in-season tournament, whatever you want to call it. The NBA games from last night. Really only one of them that I want to discuss, and that was the end of the Warriors-Houston game, which I believe everybody is talking about today, because what a mess that was, huh? Right? Yeah. Anyway, so we'll talk about that when we return from the commercial break. Then we're going to talk more about some of the news that I previewed to you earlier in the show. The bill that was introduced for Ohio about flag planting, and Bill Belichick becoming the new head coach at UNC Chapel Hill football. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to The Scoreboard. We're back after this. And welcome back. You're You're listening to the Scoreboard halfway through on this Thursday. We're on the back half of the week, ladies and gentlemen. How's it feel? We're getting closer. Oh my goodness. I'm keeping that. If you are watching on the WSIC News app, on the Facebook page, on the YouTube page, I just got the cojones scared out of me. Oh my goodness, something fell behind me and I don't know why I jumped, but I did. Anyway. Oh man. Welcome back to the Scoreboard. Segment 3, we're halfway through the program today. I'm just going to keep going, act like nothing happened, right? Why not? What were we talking about? We just got back from the commercial break. We just finished talking about women's high school basketball, updating you on how some of the teams in the area are doing. There are some really good teams, some great teams. I think that Lake Norman team might be heading right for a state championship. A date with the state championship game. Who doesn't want that, right? Anyway, we're going to move on from that and get into the NBA a little bit, talk about the foul that was called in the Rockets-Warriors game. What a mess. So, first of all, last night we had the NBA Cup. It was the quarterfinal matchup between the Rockets and the Warriors, okay? Now, the final score in this game was 91-90, and with less than a minute to go, Golden State was leading 90-89. And then there was a loose ball. Players were diving for it. And Jonathan Kuminga ends up getting, Jonathan Kuminga of the Warriors, in case you're unaware, ends up getting called for a loose ball foul, which then sent Jalen Green to the line for 2 free throws. He made them both. And the Rockets ended up winning. Like I said, 91-90, the final score in this one. Man, I mean, the theme of this segment, I guess, is going to be soft. That is a very soft call. I mean, you don't see fouls called like that when there's a loose ball and players are diving for it, unless there is something clear and obvious. And I saw nothing clear. I saw 2 people fighting for a loose ball. I saw multiple people actually fighting for a loose ball. Nobody could get it. It was like a football or something, bouncing in weird ways. But that was a bad call. How you call a foul on a loose ball when players are diving at the ball? They're not trying to foul. They're not. And I don't know if there's like a specific rule for what is and isn't considered a foul when players are diving for a loose ball, because obviously there's going to be contact. I mean, you can't avoid that. When there's a ball on the ground and people are diving for it, there's going to be contact. And you can probably call it both ways most of the time. But what we usually end up doing to kind of negate that is, all right, they dove for the loose ball. They both have their hands on it. Jump ball. Let's move on. That's not what happened here. The foul was called for some reason on Jonathan Kuminga, and Jalen Green hit both of his free throws. And just like that, the Warriors, who are in control, are down 1 with 3 seconds remaining, and they end up being unable to convert. The Rockets move on. Steve Kerr was not happy. He says, I don't even understand what happened. I am stunned. I give the Rockets credit. They battled back. They played great defense all night. But I feel for our guys. Our guys battled back, played their you-know-whats off. and deserved to win that game, or at least have a chance for one stop at the end to finish that game. And that was taken from them by a call I don't think an elementary school referee would have made. He's kind of right. He's got a little bit of a point there, ladies and gentlemen. But nonetheless, that's the way it goes. The results are final. Last night, it was the Hawks beating the Knicks, and then the Rockets taking down the Warriors. So on Saturday, the Atlanta Hawks will play at 4:30 against the Milwaukee Bucks at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And then at 8:30, it'll be the Houston Rockets playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. The winners go to play for an NBA Cup championship on Tuesday, December 17th. And I'll tell you what, I think I talked about it the other day. I'm not surprised that they put the NBA Cup championship game on a Tuesday, but it's a good idea. What other day are you going to do it? There's going to be bowl games almost every single day coming up. You're not going to put it on a Monday and compete with the NFL. Nobody's going to do that. You're not going to put it on Sunday and compete with the NFL. Wednesday, I guess you could try Wednesday. Thursday, definitely not. You got Thursday night football, which we have coming up tonight. So they decide on Tuesday, and I'm okay with Tuesday. I have no problem with that. So we'll have the in-season cup championship game Tuesday, December 17th in Las Vegas, as all of the semifinal and final games are. We also talked about Bill Belichick a little bit earlier. There was a 5-year deal that was signed by Bill Belichick and UNC Chapel Hill. So in that case, Bill Belichick is back to coaching, and this time he's going to also have to recruit. Oh, okay. I'm trying to think why he would do this, because we talked about it a little bit earlier. He is 16 wins away from tying Don Shula for the most career wins by an NFL head coach. And Andy Reid is only 32 behind Bill Belichick. Is this a chance to get back into coaching in general, to prove to yourself again that, or prove to other people that you can coach in the NFL? I don't know what Bill Belichick has to prove. Now, I did see a report that he was interested in the Bears position, and I think that would have been an interesting fit. But he decides to go to UNC Chapel Hill. Now, UNC football has not won an ACC championship since 1980. I guess Belichick's going to look to bring them back to 1980. Well, everybody seems to love the 80s, right? Yeah. So Bill Belichick, and I guess the report was that when he went into this meeting, he handed them a 400-page research booklet on how exactly he is going to run the program. So 400 pages is a lot. How long was he considering a college job? How long did it take him to write those 400 pages? Because we heard a little bit of rumblings about Bill Belichick a couple of days ago, a little bit last week, possibly going to college. But I want to know how long it took him to write that and what it was in, and why other schools didn't interview him and said, hey, can we have that booklet so we can see what you want to do? Would have been a good idea, in my opinion. One more segment here on the Scoreboard, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have a little fun in this final segment, talk some football, other things going on around the sports world, and we'll talk about this day in sports history. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Scoreboard. We're back after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Scoreboard. Final segment. We got a lot to talk about here. Thursday night football is coming up. Yeah. Rams and 49ers. So that will be interesting for sure. Boise State quarterback Malachi Nelson, former number 1 overall prospect for the class of 2023, is expected to enter the transfer portal. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, he didn't play much this year, did Malachi. But it's transfer portal, I guess, is anybody's game, right? I do want to get into what this Thursday night game means in terms of the NFL playoffs for the NFC. The reason is the NFC is still pretty much wide open. There's only one team that has been eliminated from playoff contention so far, and that is the New York Giants, which means the 49ers and the Rams, the two teams that are going to be playing each other tonight, both have a really good chance of making the playoffs. So the 49ers are at 6-7 right now. They have an 11% chance, a 7% chance to make the playoffs. The Rams have a 34% chance to make the playoffs. They are 7-6. Now, the reason this one is important is two reasons. Not only the wild card and the three teams that get in on the wild cards, but also the division lead. The Rams being 7-6, they are only a game behind the Seahawks, who are 8-5, leading the NFC West. The 49ers, they're a couple of games behind here. They got some ground to make up. They also have the Cardinals, who are 6-7 as well in the NFC West, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the 49ers. If the 49ers win, that would mean that the Rams and the 49ers would be a game behind the Seahawks if the Seahawks lose. Now, we got to remember it's going to take us a couple of days to see the full playoff picture after Seattle plays. But no matter what, if Seattle loses, we're either going to have a tie right now in record for the NFC West, or there's going to be a couple of teams one game behind in the NFC West, or the Seahawks, they could pull out to a 2-game lead. If the Niners win and the Seahawks win, well, they're 9-5. The second team in the division would be 7-7. So you see how this one's important for the division, but then you look at the wild card. The last team in right now is the Washington Commanders, who are, you guessed it, 8-5. The Vikings are locked in. I mean, they have a 99% chance right now to make the playoffs, which is awesome. You know, the Vikings, nobody saw that coming. So that's one wild card spot that's gone because the Lions are locked in. But the Vikings can still win the division, but the Lions can't drop out of the playoffs. So for all intents and purposes, let's say the Vikings, they're locked in. That leaves the Packers and the Commanders as the only two teams that can fall out of the playoffs right now. The Packers have a little bit of a gap. They're 9-4. The Rams, the eighth best team in the NFC, is 7-6. So they got a 2-game cushion right now. It's the Commanders at 8-5 that have to maybe not hit the panic button, but be a little bit on edge here. Like, hey, we got to keep winning because they're playing New Orleans, and I know what New Orleans' record is. Okay, they're 5-8, third in the NFC South, which isn't even a good division to begin with. Fine, yeah, they play New Orleans, but New Orleans is not eliminated. They still have a chance to win the division, right? So they're going to be playing hard. The Commanders are a good story this year with Jaden Daniels. I hope they hold on. I do. I like Jaden Daniels. I wanted, look, I'm a Giants fan. I wanted the Giants to draft Jaden Daniels. I thought he was going to be maybe the best quarterback from this draft class. Even though Caleb Williams looks really well, looks all good. Bo Nix is the biggest surprise to me, in my opinion. But the Commanders look really good. Now, the Commanders and the Broncos are both 8-5, led by rookie quarterbacks, which is interesting. So Thursday night football tonight, Rams and 49ers. A lot of teams still with a chance to make the playoffs. The Buccaneers are leading the NFC South at 7-6. The Falcons are a game behind. The Saints are 2 games behind. Panthers are a few games behind here at 3-10. Still 4 games behind, but they have a chance. They have a chance, and that's all you can hope for, right? They got to win out, and they need the rest of the NFC South to lose. That's basically what needs to happen. Let's move on from the NFL. I want to talk a little bit more about the MLB, as we had some more signings, some more trades, some more news in the MLB that happened yesterday. And I know the MLB, it's kind of like, we're not really going to talk about it all that much because it's the offseason. We just did the World Series. But there is free agency going on. And the big one dropped. The big decision that was made, Juan Soto, 300, what a disrespectful number that is, $765 million going to the New York Mets. That is the biggest domino to fall so far. Now, there's other things that are going to happen. I'm hearing some things about Nolan Arenado possibly being traded. He does have a full no trade clause, though, so he would have the ability to block that trade. We talked about it yesterday with the Yankees bringing in a pitcher, and then we have had a few trades as well. The Red Sox got Garrett Crochet from the White Sox for a haul of 4 prospects. By the way, it was Max Fried, by the way, who the Yankees signed. It was an 8-year, $218 million. Here's the thing about Soto is some of these teams that were going after him, they can now use that $700 million to go get 5 or 6 players that are really good. So is it the worst thing in the world that you lose out on Juan Soto? No. It wouldn't. But it depends how you use that money. So we'll see what ends up happening. But there is a lot going on in Major League Baseball. A lot of trades that are being discussed. The Astros, the Padres possibly trading some of their players. And we're still waiting for more free agency news to drop as of right now. So yeah, we'll continue to let you know what's going on in MLB free agency. We have a free agent tracker, I should say. Willie Adames going to San Francisco. Max Fried, we talked about him. Blake Snell going to the Dodgers. That was a big one. No, Nathan Eovaldi back to Texas. Tyler O'Neill going from Boston to Baltimore. That's a pretty big one as well. So there's things that are happening. Travis d'Arnaud getting moved. Michael Conforto signing with the Dodgers. Clay Holmes, another player leaving the Yankees and going to the Mets. So there are signings that are happening. It's just that the general public knew about Juan Soto, right? And they were like, oh, Juan Soto. He's the big prize this year. But there's other players that are really good that you can also sign. So we'll continue to let you know what's going on. All right. As we approach the end of the program here, like we do every day, we're going to talk about some things that happened on this day in sports history. It was on this day, 2021. Max Verstappen won the Formula One Drivers' Championship for Red Bull after a controversial finish to pass Lewis Hamilton at the Abu Dhabi GP in the last race of the season. They went into that race tied in points. Hey, NASCAR, hey, a season-long points format. They went into the last race tied in points. Wow. That's exciting. And we all know what happened with the caution that got called. The safety car came out. They let all the lap cars between Hamilton and Verstappen pass. They threw the green flag. They got the safety car out of there, and Hamilton didn't stand a chance. Yeah, that was a weird one. That was a real weird one. It was also on this day, 1997. Padres signed Pedro Martinez to a then record 6-year, $69 million contract. A record at the time. $765 million. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on the Scoreboard. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a great night, everyone.